Welcome to the Life from Learning podcast with your host, Justin Kester.
Welcome to episode 2. I am so happy that you have decided to stay on this journey with me. Today I have a really exciting topic to talk to you about. It's one that is very near and dear to me, especially personally. I'll give you a hint as to what it is. Don't be confused. This is a glass, and yep, there's water in it. Here, let me give you a little bit closer view. So that's all I'm going to give you a clue about for right now, but I'm not going to be using it to drink today. But believe it or not, this glass and this water and this concept is very important, both in your home life as well as in your work life. So as I had told you guys, I wanted to let you know a little bit more about me personally. So I'm going to take some time here to kind of tell you a little bit of a story about my life, our life, as it relates to Addison. And then you'll see how this kind of ties back to the glass and the water. So we have a daughter, a younger daughter, Addison. We have an older daughter, Haley. Our younger daughter, Addison, suffers from a disease called spinal muscular atrophy. And she has type 1 of that disease, which is the most severe form of that disease. So I kind of want to take you through the journey and help you understand more about that and then how it ties into the glass and the water. So let's go all the way back. When Addison was born, she was born perfectly fine. She had perfect APGAR scores. She was a normal kicking and screaming baby. So we all went home as a happy family. Happy husband, happy wife, happy parents, happy for our older daughter to have a younger sister that's coming into the picture. So everything was fine. So then we went in for our 4-week checkup appointment with our family doctor, and we could just tell something wasn't right. Something was wrong in that doctor's appointment. The doctor was just, we've known the doctor for a long time, and he kind of looked at us and he said, I think there's something wrong. And we're like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, Addison doesn't seem to be developing at the speed as which, other kids are at 4 weeks. And so he was very concerned. He showed us how Addison's muscles were very floppy, kind of like he would put her arms up and then they would just flop to the side. And that was very strange for at 4 weeks. There should be more muscle tone at that point. And so he said, well, we need to do some more testing. So he sent us to a pediatric neurologist. So we met with that neurologist right away. It was probably only a couple days later, and we actually went and met with him. And he asked a series of questions, and then he said, okay, I'm going to send you off for some testing. So he had us go get blood drawn on Addison, and there were probably, I think, 4 or 5, I don't remember exactly, but 4 or 5 tests that were going to be run. And we of course, as parents, we frantically wrote those items down. And as we were waiting for the results to come back, we have researched all of them. And unfortunately, we got at 6 weeks, the neurologist let us know that Addison had the diagnosis, and it was spinal muscular atrophy. And our hearts just sunk because we had done our research, and spinal muscular atrophy was by far the worst of all the diagnoses that they were checking for. And we had done a lot of research, and what we had been reading about on the internet was that spinal muscular atrophy is the number 1 killer of infants. We further on read that Addison probably would not live past the age of 1. And so we were devastated. We went from being super excited and happy and our family's growing to devastation, to tragedy. Just wow, I can't believe what's happening. And so this is kind of where I wanted to segue into the concept today. So again, this glass, is it half empty or half full? And so what I wanted to say is that in that moment when we went from being on a high that we were increasing our family size and everything was fine to the low of this very tragic situation around the diagnosis that we had just received on our daughter, we had options. Do we look at this a particular event in a glass half empty view or a glass half full. The glass half empty view would be one that we would continue to be depressed and upset about it. We would continue to look at it in the most grave of circumstances and continue kind of down this path of negativity. In fact, what I want to say is, like, in general, if you asked a whole bunch of people to describe this, most of them would say that this glass full of water is half empty, because it is human nature to often take the negative view versus the positive view. In fact, a great example of that is in the news. If you watch the news and you did a tally, negative and positive, and you went through that whole hour of the news, at least 80% of the news, you'd have tally marks on the negative side, the glass half empty. And you'd only have about 20% on the positive side, which would be the glass half full. So the thing I wanted to challenge you with is to change your viewpoint. When you are dealing with an adversity, when you're dealing with challenges at work, when you're dealing with a tragedy like we experienced at home, it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to lie. And I will get into that as far as our situation. But if you can pivot from glass half empty to glass half full, you will have much better success in being able to deal with that. So let me equate it back, right? So my wife Shannon and I, we're dealing with this situation with Addison, and it would be very easy in the moment. In fact, I'm sure for a little bit there we did, is to kind of take a step back and be like, this sucks. I don't understand. Why did this happen to me? What did I do? It could even cause a rift in the family. It's like, it's your fault. You're talking to your spouse and say it's your fault, or the kid, your kid or kids that you have in the family already could also have a very negative view on things, and it can just kind of spiral out of control. And so in that moment, we went through our period of panic and not knowing what to do. But because of our deep faith, we are Christian. And I know not everyone on this podcast is Christian, but I'm, just taking a religious slant for a moment. But we put our faith in God. We didn't question God. We just knew that there was a reason why we were given Addison, but we didn't know why yet. We just figured that at some point in the future we might understand. And so what we tried to do is we tried to then pivot from the glass half empty view to the glass half full, right? We were told Addison may only live to age 1, so let's just cherish every moment. Let's do as much as we can. Let's try to enjoy as much time as possible. Like, live every day, right, in as much positive way as you can. And so, as the months went on, we were in and out of the hospital. You start to get into a routine. You start to understand and kind of deal with it. Your new normal becomes in play, and started to really look at things more positively. And I would say that looking back now, so Addison is 13 years old, so she way outlived what they said only age 1, and she's 13 and she's doing fantastic. And I think a major reason why is because we pivoted from the glass half empty to the glass half full, right? What are the things we can do, right? And like I said, when I look back now, there's so many more positives that came out of it that if we had stayed negative, it probably wouldn't happen. For instance, if we had stayed negative, probably, or glass half empty, we probably, maybe Shannon and I wouldn't be married because that negativity would have continued to grow on us. And what I'd like to say is that I believe our marriage has strengthened, right? We weathered the storm, and by weathering the storm, it made us closer, more aligned, and it really helped our marriage, right? Having that glass half full view allowed for opportunities. Now you may ask yourself, how can you have an opportunity from a tragedy? It can really happen, right? When you change your mind, it opens up a lot of doors. So for instance, after, I think it was like probably 2 or 3 years of Addison, we had gotten a lot of experience and things like that, and we basically got the bug to say, hey, we want to help others. And so we got aligned to an organization called Cure SMA. At the time, it was called Families of SMA. And it's basically the leading organization for finding a cure for the disease that my daughter has. And so I served on the board of directors there. I was given that opportunity because of the experience. And my wife was able to take her talents that she has, and she found all these toys like water guns and teddy bears and things like that. And she found a way to adapt the toys so that you could operate them even if you had this disease. Because this disease, spinal muscular atrophy, you have very limited movements of your muscle. And so you can take a small little switch and you can touch it just slightly and then make these toys, do things like shoot water or, come to life and sing some songs or whatever. And so my wife figured out how to do that. And so at the yearly conference for Cure SMA, we would give all these toys out to these kids, and we would show the parents and how they could actually take their other toys and adapt them. And so we took what seemingly was a bad situation, we reframed it, right? So we went from glass half empty to glass half full. And then we were able to do things that we would never have been able to ever think that we could do. That particular tough moment, when we were able to think more positively, then we were able to stretch ourselves. We were doing things that we would have never ever guessed that we would have been able to do. We were stretched, and we were able to do and make an impact on people's lives. Even like when my wife and I are out with Addison, like if we go to the mall or go to a movie, I can't tell you how many times someone has come up and said, hey, it's a complete stranger, I just want to let you know, you're an inspiration. I really admire the fact that that you take your daughter, and we know how difficult it is for you to do those things, and have her out in the community and experiencing life. And so if we had the glass half empty view, I don't think we would have done it. I think we would have stayed at home and we would have just continued in the doldrums instead of taking a different view and just trying to embrace every day. And so I know it's long-winded, but I'm hoping through the story that I'm sharing with you that it might help you with whatever you're dealing with. And again, this applies both in the home as well as at work, right? If you're having a production issue at work, or there's something not going right at work, right? Looking at it as the glass half full versus glass half empty can help you arrive and figure out new solutions, and you won't be caught up and have your blinders on with the this isn't working, there's no way out. Whereas if you flip it, you start to think outside the box, and you start to be able to come up with new solutions. Another term would be make lemonade out of lemons, right? So take something bad, turn it around, and make it into something that's actually really good, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I'm sorry to take it personally, but I thought that would be the best way to try to explain to you the concept of the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. I challenge you that as you go into the next weeks and months, the next time something happens, pause, take a second, and think to yourself, am I looking at this as glass half empty or glass half full? And I guarantee you that if you do that and you take the glass half full approach, you're going to shock yourself at how many amazing things will come out of that versus if you had stayed with a negative view. So that's it for today. I'm really excited to let you know that for the third episode, it's actually going to be a guest. I'll explain more about that later. But I really hope that you're enjoying this journey. I really do value comments and feedback. Without getting comments and feedback from you, I don't know if things are going well or not. So if you have an opportunity, please comment, on YouTube or send me an email at lifefromlearning@gmail.com. And again, just a quick plug. If you do want to follow this, I do have that Patreon account set up. So if you wanted to go out there and get connected that way, you can do that as well. So that's it for today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on episode 3.